Hey everybody, Jimmy with the Triple C Collective here for another Sci-Fi Sunday. Today, joining me is DJ. We're going to be diving into Kenobi, or actually, I should take a step back here. Something that I've realized that I've actually probably been doing wrong is I keep calling this show Kenobi. But the title sequence, when actually the title card when I was watching it this time, actually keeps saying Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I double checked on IMDb. It actually shows as Obi-Wan Kenobi and not Kenobi. So I am wrong in that. So I am here with my buddy DJ. DJ, you have a docket for us. Let's go ahead and dive into DJ's docket here.
Um, Obviously, I'm here because I love Star Wars. Otherwise, would not be here. Um, Pretty much when anyone ever asks me about myself, I always tell them that um, I love music and I love Star Wars. Um,
My man.
I bring up Star Wars all the time, as we all do. But just to, I have Star Wars tattoos. Some of my best memories in life have to do with my dad in Star Wars. And when the Star Wars celebration was here in Chicago a few years ago, probably the best 2 days of my life, to make that short. Because I could go on and on.
Awesome. What did you think? Now, I'm going to give you 2 minutes on your docket here. Giving you 2 minutes to talk about the first two parts of Kenobi. What'd you think?
um, the first episode obviously was like one of those intros like you always see with these series. And I talked to a lot of people, and they were like really quick that they didn't really like it the first episode.
Yeah,
And I
really.
explained it to them like it's an intro, you're learning everything, and that what the show's gonna be, So that's how I seen it, and I still liked it either way. And then, like I told you earlier, didn't really know what to expect with this show. Didn't know where it was going. Didn't know what kind of story they were gonna take. And then we were introduced to little Leia,
Little Leia. She's been a little gem. It's been
and
great.
she's probably my favorite. And honestly, next to Darth Vader, Princess Leia is my favorite character in Star Wars.
Nice.
I don't think you knew that.
No, I didn't. I did not.
Um, so obviously the second episode takes off a little more action and everything, and that was great. And then just episode 3 is where you really get the kick in the balls, I guess you would say.
and with that, and with that kick to the balls, we're gonna dive into the episode 3 here, or part 3. So this episode opens with Obi-Wan. So we've got Obi-Wan again, almost every single episode here, attempting to reach out via like the Force, and this is all a concept that we kind of saw with the sequel trilogy. We saw it a lot with Rey and Kylo Ren, very like handing off lightsaber-y likeness and whatnot. No matter how you feel about it, but it's something that I love, and it's interesting because we get first introduced to the idea that Obi-Wan is going on a journey of like knowledge and going to learn something from that recap. The last thing Yoda says to him in that recap before episode 1 starts is, I will teach you how to communicate with your old master.
Yes.
And so it's interesting then that this almost seems like if every Jedi has a journey to go on, we saw Luke go to like the hermit and cut himself off to then coming back. I wonder if then Obi-Wan's journey overall is pushing himself further to the Force, whereas like again like the parallels between Luke at the beginning here, he's all like by himself, he's all a hermit and stuff, and but he was able to reach out to Anakin
Yes.
at the end of episode 2, like when he does that, when he finds out that he's alive. So like I guess my question to you is, do you think we're gonna see Liam Neeson pop up in here?
Oh yeah.
in a voice, or do you think we're going to see a Force Ghost thing?
I think with what we've been given the past few years with like Star Wars and especially these series, they're known for throwing surprises at us, and cameos and stuff like that. So
Yep.
I think we'll definitely see him, and I think it's possible we see him in the next episode too.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
more than confident we see Qui-Gon.
To be fair, I mean, you're not. I wouldn't call you wrong or crazy for thinking that, because, like, to be fair, no. To be fair though, this is like the halfway point. Like this episode, this is part 3. It's only 6 episodes long. It's not 8. So like we're at the halfway point here, and it kind of begged a question of what we were talking about a little bit before, of like where this story is going and how it will, and what we already know and how it affects what we already know. And so it'll be interesting to see what we get with Obi-Wan's development here, because we always kind of thought of him as the Jedi Master at the end of like Revenge of the Sith, but maybe he still has that one last step, that one last journey, and learning that communication might be it. Learning that Force Ghost power.
I don't think his last step is that. I think we're witnessing his last step and learning to deal with what he mainly thinks is failure with Anakin.
Yeah.
So now he's got to deal with that. I think the whole like Force Ghost thing is going to happen because clearly Yoda taught him. So I think he's just doing the right things to do that. And like I said, with the way the shows are, they throw surprises at us all the time, and we will see Qui-Gon, but I think his final step, I guess you would say maybe, is going on right now, and dealing with what he failed at, similar to when you mentioned Luke.
Yeah.
So that's what I think we're seeing right now.
That final step, but here's the other, so I guess then if we're in that final leg, is this final leg like another 10, 12 years long that culminates with Obi-Wan truly going into the Force in A New Hope in Star Wars? Like, are we seeing that now? I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to keep it into the episode, so so I'm sorry. But then we get we get Obi-Wan reaching out to Qui-Gon during this. We get the it makes me think of Liam Neeson. It reaching out to Anakin, but we also get it intercut with Vader. Yes. Hayden Christensen came back, and he's the dude, far as I know, like that's not like he's in the suit when it's not like lightsaber fighting kind of stuff that we get in this episode. It's like Hayden Christensen, like it was clearly Hayden Christensen in the bacta tank and all that stuff that we saw the end of episode 2 and at the beginning of what we see here in episode 3. I love that one of the things that I said before, but I didn't have anyone to bounce it off of me, is that I love that they brought everybody back. They brought everybody back. And it's one of my favorite things that they did. Is it one of your favorite things about this show so far, about them bringing everything back? Because like as we get the intercut of like Vader dressing, we get more of the Mustafar. We finally hear Vader speak for the first time, and who do they bring back? The great one, Mr. James Earl Jones. Those sweet, sweet pipes that he has, always laying down. I mean, God, it's beautiful, man. You love it. You gotta love it.
I didn't think that we were gonna get James Earl Jones again. I thought it was just gonna be, like how they use all those powers to edit words that were said before. You know what I mean? But it is actually him, and I could go on and on. We're not gonna get into that though. But it's good that Hayden Christensen is back because of everything he dealt with from the prequels, and now all the love that he's getting now. Man. So I don't want to get into that, but it's good to know that he's back. He's from everything I see, interviews and stuff, he seems to be enjoying himself. And I even watched an interview before I came here today that when he said putting on the Vader suit and whatnot is like he can't help but feel evil.
Yeah.
So
it's awesome.
So yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad to have them both back, and because when they announced the show, you didn't think Hayden was going to come back at all, and then they announced that.
Yeah.
And I just thought maybe James Earl Jones was like, I'm too old for this.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see him, see him and hear him back, and it's a big, I guess, gift for us. So
absolutely, and I agree. The toxicity of that fandom, and oh god, sometimes it's bad. It's real bad.
The people that hate Star Wars the most are Star Wars fans,
and it doesn't make sense. Why? You're right. We shouldn't get into this.
That's another.
That's a whole other podcast for a whole other day.
Oh yeah.
But no, getting back to here. So let's also talk about being here with Vader and stuff, and being here, hearing James Earl Jones, and being in Mustafar. Like this had like some great, like terrorizing, like foreboding, like vibes the entire time, for lack of a better phrase or whatever for it. And it was great to kind of feel that that like presence of Vader again, because for me the last time I really felt it was that hallway scene in Rogue One.
Yes.
If I'm being honest, like that was the last time Vader was truly like, oh, this is terrifying. This is why we don't mess with this guy. This is why everyone fears him. This is why his kids have to come back and rally against him and bring him back from the brink to like get it all done and stuff. It's man, I loved it. I love every little bit of it. And like even in my notes here that I'm looking, like one of the favorite things that I love is James Earl Jones. He's back, baby. Like
and I think too, and for me, a lot of people I've talked to say, oh, definitely Rogue One like vibes from the first like or anything, any shot, any scene with Vader in this. And I think this tops Rogue One in every way, with Darth Vader being one of my favorite characters of all time, even from that first scene, from him sitting down and standing up, which is one of the most dramatic things I've ever seen. I've never really felt fear of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
But him in this episode legit scared me. So, and that's a good thing.
Because he needs to be terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's also one thing that I love that they've done, taking from, like, for lack of a better word, the expanded universe that we have here, is bringing in the Inquisitors. Like, bringing in the Grand Inquisitor, who has come and gone now at this point. Sorry if you haven't watched the first 2 episodes. Don't know what you're doing here on part 3 with us. But hey, sorry, spoiler. But yeah, I mean, so like, but I love it. I love the Inquisitors. And one thing that I was talking with Colin, one of the other co-founders here, and he was I was talking about Reva, on how she is probably one of the people, and like I talk about it because right now, like at this part in the episode, Reva is talking with Vader, via hologram, being like, hey, like we found this stuff, and he's like, if you succeed, you're the new Grand Inquisitor. If you fail, you're dead. Like idea, only Siths deal in absolutes, right?
Yeah.
And that Vader is laying it down on the line. You succeed, you are what you want to be. You fail, and you no longer have any wants, needs, or abilities to do anything. And one of the things though about Reva, and like one of the things about that conversation is I didn't understand why she was going after Obi-Wan so hard. Now understanding with like her like truly having that direct line to like Vader, which you don't always know with every Inquisitor and stuff, like who has that, you know, who has that Vader phone or whatever, for lack of a better term. You don't always know who has that direct line to him, and it has his ear or whatever. So, like, I didn't know where she played, so I never understood why she hated Kenobi so much and why she was so, like, hell-bent on getting Kenobi. It clearly now makes sense, like, because she actually knows who Anakin is. But did you realize in the cold open for episode 1 that she is one of the younglings there that sees the Jedi get killed on that bridge?
Well, I was going to say that, like, we know that a lot of Inquisitors in their way were, like, former Jedi or former Jedi in training. So that thought was already there with me. Like, you know, that she obviously has a past with the Jedi and everything. And, but yeah, like I said, like, once you, like, obviously the opening scene with the younglings and then you see her and everything, it's like, that thought was already there with me. With the whole, like, she was part of that already, you know, and now she's
and
where
kind
she's
of, like, left behind and, has this, like, chip, like, why didn't you come for me too, or why didn't you help me, or anything like that.
Yeah, so that was already there with me.
I missed that. I never even saw that. I was just like, oh, it's a bunch of younglings. It never even dawned on me until I had this conversation with my buddy that, and he texts me back a screenshot of it, and he circles her, and he's like, you know, that's her right there, right? And I was like, oh, maybe I'm part of the problem. Maybe I'm part of the problem of this stuff because I did not see that.
I mean, but that's another example of how, you know, they like to throw these little surprises at you that you're not going to expect, you know, and then you see that, and then, but I also, like, I've learned, like, you know, the Inquisitors obviously are former Jedi or Jedi in training, whatever you want to say.
Or just straight Siths that have, like, maybe come
Yeah.
out of the woodwork, who might have been in, like, hiding because of Jedi and stuff before. But yeah, they're all like...
Yeah. And ultimately, they're all trying to be Darth Vader, and pretty much, if it was up to them, they would try to overthrow Vader and be him right there.
True.
And that's another thing I learned, too, that when Vader was first introduced to the Inquisitors, he did not want them, because he pretty much seen it as Palpatine having someone just in case. You know, they're being trained under Vader's nose, you know, like, while he's right there. And that's why ultimately he throws the hair. If you fail, you're dead.
Yeah.
So
Steal and absolutes. So after we get the absolutes and Reva, we get Obi-Wan again, and we get Leia. We get young Leia, who I have loved throughout the first, you know, these first 3 episodes. She's been really great. It's been really fun to see her and watch her. She asks really great questions about what it feels like to be a Jedi and, like, a part of the Force and everything like that. And I really loved kind of Obi-Wan's answers, like, have you ever been afraid of the dark? And then you turned on the light. You know, it feels like that. Feels safe. You know, it feels right. That was great. And then we also get the classic thing that we always see is, like, when we get the old, like, hermit guy that's going, like, begrudgingly on his mission or whatever. He always finds the trinket of the person that he's traveling with, whether it be a young child or person, whatever.
Yeah.
He always fixes the trinket, and, like, it's like a total trope. But I love that Obi-Wan is, like, just sitting over there, you know, just like, I'm gonna fix Lola here really quickly, you know, and he fixes Lola for Leia. It's really great.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. I don't know. Yeah, we've talked about it. Like, young Leia's been great.
Yeah.
Right? Like, seeing that addition has been a lot of fun.
And another thing, like, what I was saying earlier, did not expect that in any way at all, because I did not know where this series was going. I don't know if anyone else did. I did not read into it. I was just like, I'm just going to watch it when it comes out. And the last thing I expected was uh, a little Leia, and then for her to be in what we're going on in episode 4 now, and she's obviously a main part
She's
of this.
player. She's the main player. Yeah.
You know, and he's gonna have to save her again. So it was just like, you know, you get emotional, you get excited. Me telling you like she's literally Princess Leia is literally one of my second favorite character, and just to know that she's such a big part of this made me even more excited. I love it. I know people, like we said about the Star Wars fans, how they are, but I think she's great. I think it's gonna continue being great. It's good to know, you know, that you still get Princess Leia,
right? And it doesn't feel like a major slight against the late Carrie Fisher, like, who we obviously all love as well, and like who is Princess Leia, General Leia, like there's no question about that. This doesn't seem like the idea of like bad taste or trying to like do the typical recast young so that they can continue on with a bunch more. Like, they just found a young girl who like really can act well, and like, at least to me, and I would say it's safe to say for you as well, like kind of embodies like who we would expect a young Princess Leia to kind of be, and to kind of how to act and stuff. So it's like going back to the questions that she's asking about the Force and stuff, and the way that she handles herself is just awesome. It's all great.
For sure.
She's so great.
I think Carrie Fisher would be very proud of what's going on right now.
Yeah, right? Then we get the Mapuzo planet. It's the mining planet. We're here for basically the rest of the episode with Obi-Wan and Leia. And, they go here because Kumail Nanjiani's character from episode 2, gives them the coordinates and says, hey, go to this planet. There are contacts there, Obi-Wan, people willing to help you. So that's where they're at. And while they're here, they come up with Obi-Wan and Leia come up with their story, father-daughter,
which was
Tall.
Great.
Yeah.
Which was great.
That whole back and forth is awesome.
That was probably that was the best scene outside of all the Vader scenes, of the episode.
And so, like, all of this is really great, though, like, they're wandering through a field, they get picked up by Freck, who is voiced by Zach Braff, and the only reason why I know that off the top of my head is because I looked it up, because I would have bet my house.
Let me take a guess, though.
That Freck was voiced by Seth Rogen.
Yep.
But it was Zach Braff. Like,
yep.
IMDb credit. Zach Braff. Freck. Never would, like, blows my mind.
Yep.
So
I think everyone thought that, though. And then
I mean, like, either Zach Braff has the single greatest Seth Rogen impersonation going on right now that nobody knew about until right now. I don't know, but it was great. Like, they're traveling through the countryside. They get picked up by Freck. There's not really much going on with that, like, other than Obi-Wan and Leia kind of trying to come up with their story, father-daughter from Tall visiting family, right? What we do get after that little bit is we go back to Mustafar. And this is where I find the stuff with the Inquisitors to be probably, for me, the most interesting stuff of what's happening grander in the story. It's like I'm in with Obi-Wan and Leia, but like they're kind of doing the Lord of the Rings thing. They're walking around, they're traveling from place to place right now, and certain actions happen to them around them once they get to different places. But the Inquisitors are actually like moving, planning, trying to coordinate like their attack of Obi-Wan and stuff. So I'm very intrigued at how or what they're going to plan and how they're going about it. So when we get back to Mustafar, we get Reva, we get the fifth brother with the like the fifth brother like does the like whole drag down, and like Reva's like whoa, like just holding herself above like the table and stuff like that. It's great. It's great because I love I love the character of Reva. Her is like, well, I just talked to Vader, and he said I'm to run this. So send out the drones or the probes now. Like that command of that scene, that space and stuff is just awesome. And like I am very intrigued with like Reva and everything she has to do. And what about that? Was the initial stop at Mapuzo like kind of more your jam of like setting up like that lone wolf and cub and like Lord of the Rings, like walking through kind of going to point A, point B? Or are you like a little bit with me leaning more towards like, I want those Inquisitors. I want to know more about what they're doing. I want to spend more time with them.
Obviously, I mean, like I said, that scene was great, with them playing the father-daughter. But obviously you want to know more about the Inquisitors, like, because each one of them, and then they brought a new one in.
Yeah.
Each one of them has a story, and you want to know what their story is. And Reva is, like you were just saying, I love how angry she is. And she means business in everything she does. And just so far, it's like she's, in my opinion, is, like one of the main stars, like I guess next to Darth Vader, for me, that it's like I want to know more about her. It's like I'm almost more interested in what's going on with her than Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's true, right? Because we all know where like Obi-Wan ends up.
Yeah, pretty much.
So here's the thing. There is one other thing that would happen after the events of Obi-Wan, and it happens in Rebels. That would be basically the one last event that Obi-Wan happens to him before then what we see in the original trilogy. Is like what we see with Alec Guinness and all of that stuff. So like there's not a lot of time left to really play with Obi-Wan here either, which is interesting. Which is fine. Like I'm not knocking it. Like Ewan McGregor, like bringing Ewan McGregor back was an awesome choice as opposed to trying to cast somebody else. Like
who looked like him or sounded like him.
Yeah. Doing something, again, like it's one of the benefits of them deciding to bring back everybody. It was awesome. But we're going to move forward. One of the things I do want to say, though, is when Obi-Wan and Leia are picked up by Freck, and then the stormtroopers join them in that like journey and whatnot. One of the things that I love about that is where Obi-Wan messes up and calls like when they have their fake names, Orden and Luma, and he calls Luma, aka Leia, and the stormtrooper's like, wait a second, you said her name's Luma, you just called her Leia. Like, first off,
were you that stormtrooper? You sounded just like him.
I mean, dude, it is stuck with me, and how obnoxious that stormtrooper was during it.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's just ingrained into me. Because
apparently Obi-Wan's quick on his feet, so
yeah, right. Oh, I'm sorry, I get confused. But that's the other thing. Like, that's I love that scene because it's like, stormtrooper, you're obnoxious. But like, but Obi-Wan like is quick on his feet, gives a fantastic answer, and a completely plausible one in being like, we just lost her mother. That was her mother's name. I still get confused. Like it's been a tough time for us, and like he says that a couple of times, and I don't know. It's just really great. I like it. This was one of those things of where it was like, it's the tension building that Star Wars has, and then you're like, oh, okay, it's good.
Pretty much how I felt the whole time. Like, as soon as he said Leia, I was like, uh-oh. Before the stormtrooper went on his dramatic acting event.
Dramatic acting event.
So, I as soon as he said Leia, I was like, uh-oh. And I thought we were obviously going to see something break out while they're driving and everything, but that doesn't happen until, a minute later.
Yeah. So we get to the checkpoint then, and, Freck being the little scumbag that he is, little Empire flag waving, douche that he is, tells the stormtroopers to check them out, because they're acting a little funny, they're a little weird or whatever it is. And it's something that annoys me a little bit because I actually really like the character of Freck up until this point. Freck was just a fun... It was a definitional Star Wars thing, though, because it was a weird little creature that was if this was back in the 70s and 80s, prosthetic, animatronic little guy, kind of moving around, maybe half costume and stuff, maybe a top half or whatever, or 3/4 suit, and then the top half and the mouth are animatronic, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the original movies. I just love the little design. I love his little weird pig snout that had the weird little tentacle, octopus tentacles all around it. It was a really fun design of a creature.
My friend texted me because she had watched it before me, and, without spoilers for me, because I had no idea who Freck was. She said, Freck is so ugly.
He is.
And I was like, first of all, who's Freck? Because that's all she texted me. I didn't know what she was talking about. And then she told me, Obi-Wan. I was like, I haven't watched yet, so stop right there.
Let's just stop. Let's just pump the brakes right there.
Starting episode 3, I'm waiting for this Freck person. And I was like, oh, yeah he's ugly.
He's like a mole rat.
I just thought that was funny. Because, he was obviously a big part of that. And the one thing she texted me was, Freck is ugly. I could hear her saying it too, but... That's you talking about. It's funny that you bring that up, because we did not talk about that at all.
Yeah.
And the one thing I learned about him, and that I think we could all agree on, is that he's ugly.
Yeah, he is. But so, as much as Freck is ugly and is not really a friend to Obi-Wan, as they have just met and everything, we the stormtroopers check him out, but one of the probes show up.
Yes.
Protocol 23, which we can only assume is it means bring out the probe or whatever, not bring out your dead or anything like that. Monty Python, bring out your dead.
That's what I deal with.
Yeah, all the time. It's awful. It's awful. But so we get the second wave, right? No. We don't get the second wave yet. We get Obi-Wan dealing with the probe. The probe comes, starts scanning them.
Yes.
As they're getting out of the little transport and stuff, Obi-Wan, we get the slick little Han unholstering, unholstering his blaster, getting ready for it. And then we get the old school Western shootout.
Yep.
Killing the probe. The two stormtroopers that are there taking the third one, or taking Freck as the body, as the body protector from the other one, and then takes out that third stormtrooper.
The one though falling from the pillar through the laser is probably one of the greatest stormtrooper deaths
ever
of all time.
Ever. One of the single best on-screen deaths in Star Wars. It's so good.
Awesome and hilarious, because anytime anything happens to a stormtrooper,
it's
hilarious. So
it's just funny, but at the same time, I was like, hey, we got a stormtrooper version of Darth Maul going on right now.
Pretty much. But that stormtrooper's dead though. He's not coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. He ain't coming back. But so as this is happening, Obi-Wan and Leia knock out the checkpoint red barrier, and then the second wave of stormtroopers and Empire leader, sergeant, manager, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call her, Tala shows up, and it's a really great, again, like this whole little bit of the standoff and the checkpoint and everything is like really great bits of tension building,
Mm-hmm.
because when we see the second wave show up, we're like, oh my god, what?
What's gonna happen now? You
You
know?
know, right? What's gonna happen now? We thought they were good, but they're not. Long pause. Three stormtroopers turning their guns, blasters, sorry, onto Obi-Wan and Leia, and it is awful. But Tala shoots them and saves them, and it's great.
Yeah. Unexpected too, but this whole show has been unexpected, and you don't think that's gonna happen. And I was expecting, oh, finally he's gonna use his lightsaber.
Right?
And,
I thought that too. I thought, well, it was interesting because they specifically show him using the undoing his blaster,
Yes.
which is wild. And the thing that was unexpected, because you're expecting him to use his lightsaber, but even when he was talking with Leia, it raises the question in his lack of using the lightsaber. Did he cut himself off from the Force?
Mm-hmm.
I would have said that previously, but last episode we saw him like save Leia with the Force and whatnot. So like, I would have asked, maybe that was even part of the reason why it took him so long to save Leia as she was falling, because maybe he did cut himself off from the Force, and in that moment he had to make that choice to reconnect. And then hold on, he had to make that choice to reconnect because then after it, later in that episode, at the end of the episode, he connects with Anakin then.
Yeah.
And he's back with the Force, and maybe that's part of the reason why he couldn't connect with Qui-Gon. But at the same time, like, you would have assumed that Yoda told him that you had to connect via the Force with the Force and stuff. So like, I don't know. That may not be right. Spitballing here. We're having fun. But we get after this, after Tala meets Obi-Wan and grabs Obi-Wan and takes Leia back into the city, we get a cut back to Mustafar with the Inquisitors, the fifth brother and Reva, third sister, arguing some more about credit,
Mm-hmm.
who takes credit for what, and the last thing that and the probes, who will be standing next to me or next to him and all that. What do you think about fifth brother?
Typical, of, the dark side, the Sith and everything, back and forth. One wants to be better than the other. It's like a brother and sister thing almost, and they are, I guess you could say.
Right?
And I think his helmet, it just reminds me of Raiden. And that's what I keep thinking about every time they show him.
Is Raiden?
Yeah. And but I think, he's just as powerful as Reva too, so it's interesting to see. I mean, I just predict right now that Reva's gonna kill him, so it's just gonna be, she needs a distraction, that's probably gonna throw her off at some point, and he's the distraction, and then, because she's gonna be like, oh, I have to be better than him at all times. So I think that's what we're gonna get from that. I think he's just a distraction.
Just a distraction?
He's not gonna be anything important.
I agree. I think he's gonna be. I don't know if he's gonna die necessarily per se, but I definitely don't think he'll be the Grand Inquisitor. I think he's really there to kind of be a check for Reva, in the Inquisitors and the rest of them, because like now with the Grand Inquisitor gone, Riva went to Vader directly, and talked to him about everything that we saw at the beginning of the episode. Here we get the fifth brother going directly to Vader saying, hey, here's the update, here's what happened, this is what's going on, and everything like that, and taking credit for the probe and like finding Kenobi then in that sense, despite really it being Riva who was the one who initiated the plan and everything to get Kenobi to go there and like find him on the mining planet and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting the infighting that we get, because it's something that we see later on in like Rogue One. It's something that we're seeing now, is that some people were quote unquote, like we find out from Tala later on, bamboozled by the Empire, thinking that they were one thing but actually being another thing then.
Yep.
And when we're back at Mapuzo, the planet, they're back in the city. Tala is explaining to Obi-Wan why they missed each other and why they didn't hook up at the original like coordinates and whatnot. But we still got a pilot. We gotta, it's only a couple hours away.
Yeah.
Then we get Leia being sad and actually like doing the non-kid thing of being like, I genuinely feel bad for what I have done. This was not right. I have done these things before. She's talking about
running away and she always does it, and then obviously, she was not expecting that, but who was,
Who would be expecting themselves to be kidnapped over that? Like, over just running to the woods.
I don't think anyone's ever expecting to be kidnapped, so.
Right? Now, the city thing is really cool, because we get to the droid maintenance. We get the, find out about the path that Quinlan and, like, other people are helping with. They ask about that droid. That's a loading droid,
mm-hmm.
which I'll bring up later. Because the loading droid is very interesting to me with what he does later with the hammer.
Yeah. Like, I think a big part of that is what you continue to learn about droids in Star Wars is how loyal they are to you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it goes back to Leia. She calls this droid by his name.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm terrible, and I don't remember his name right now. It was, like, Ned? Like, was it Ned? Energy or something?
I honestly don't remember either, but that's also a typical Leia move.
Yeah. Well, because she talks about it with her cousin, and like, her cousin was disrespectful to the droids, and it bothered her a lot about that, and
bothered me.
It did. Her cousin was a dickhead.
Yeah,
it was a dickhead, for lack of a better word. But the thing that I find the most interesting here is the quote that Obi-Wan reads off the wall.
Yes.
When your eyes are closed, you can truly see. Leia asks, see what? And he responds, the way.
Mm-hmm.
This is Star Wars. Like, this is a line that is 100% just like the definition of Star Wars and what we love about it. And what we love and why we always keep coming back to it and everything like that.
Yep.
Like, this, I loved it. It was one of my favorite parts of this scene, because, like, then we get the weird stuff of, like, the stormtroopers showing up, knocking, getting ready to come in here, but, I don't know, do you have anything else you want to add?
I know a lot of people I don't know what you would call them, but they're still Star Wars fans, don't know who Quinlan is.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you could say sometimes I still am one of those stubborn fans that I was like, I don't want to watch these cartoons. It took me so long to watch Clone Wars, and I finally did, and I loved it in every way.
It's great in every conceivable way.
In every way, it's so good. And a confession right now is like I recently just started Rebels because I was so stubborn. And
have you watched Bad Batch yet?
No.
Okay, watch it after Rebels.
I'm behind some stuff with
Star Wars.
Yeah, because for a while I didn't have Disney Plus, and then you told me to $7.99. I was like, oh duh, just watch it, or just pay for it, and then so I'm able to watch everything now. So, but I had already watched Clone Wars, and I think everyone, some people like my dad, there's like, what is a Quinlan? So,
what is a Quinlan?
Yeah,
Who is a Quinlan?
So that was,
where is a Quinlan?
That was pretty cool, and I think I love that these shows and everything are connecting every single thing.
Yeah.
All down to the Mandalorian and stuff like that. So, that was, I guess you could say, that was another really good scene.
Yeah.
And then we all know what's coming.
And then so now at this point we have now started to enter the third act. Basically, the stormtroopers knock on the door. They're trying to find Jedi, and this is the point that I was talking about. We get the droid grabs a hammer, hides it behind his back. The entire time that the stormtroopers are walking around, he does a really good job of keeping his back, like, not shown to them.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where they had said that this droid can't talk or communicate, but it understands, and it can make its own choices, and actions speak louder than words. And this droid, the entire time, standing with the hammer behind its back, might have been the single most intense intense scene that I've had in Star Wars in so long, because I was like, this droid's just gonna it's just gonna freaking kill him and beat him brutally.
No, I think even it was either you were thinking that, or this poor droid's gonna get killed by these idiot stormtroopers, and obviously everyone always roots for the droid, and let's be honest too, he probably would have took all, what was it 3 stormtroopers?
Two.
He would have took them out easily.
Oh yeah,
no. So I think, yeah. So that even at that point, knowing this droid for what, 5 minutes, and you're already in love with him,
right?
And then the last thing you want is this droid to get into a fight and die because he's protecting and being loyal, So, but then again, you're also upset that you didn't get to see him just destroy 2 stormtroopers. So,
right, and I would have liked to have seen him destroy the 2 stormtroopers, but the way that they handled it is the better way of going about it. We also get then they finally move, and when I say they, Obi-Wan, Leia, Tala, they move into the path to the actual secret tunnel that is like the maze to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where things start to change a little bit. We get Tala explaining what we kind of talked about before. Thought the Empire was one thing, joined up with them, turned out when it was too late that they were another thing, and it is now retroactively trying to make things right. She says she's made some mistakes. Obi-Wan's like, we've all made some mistakes, which is interesting in the fact that now it seems like Obi-Wan is finally starting to forgive himself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it only kind of started when Bail Organa kind of was like, dude, you gotta care about the sister as much as you gotta care about the brother. And now almost seems like once we find out at the end episode 2 that Anakin's alive, that he finds out that Anakin's alive, it's almost like another layer peeled back for him of being able to like be okay, almost happy in the fact that like he would almost rather at this point know that Anakin is alive rather than dead. But then we get what we see in the city streets, which changes it. Which the next interaction changes all that, because it's even what Obi-Wan says. Like, what happened to you?
Yeah.
So, we get... Obi-Wan gets dizzy. Tala and Leia are through the path. Vader is walking through the streets. Let's talk about... Tell me a little bit about your feelings of Vader walking through the streets.
Like I said earlier, it was the first time that I was ever truly like afraid, scared of Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like I think everyone could agree that this is the Darth Vader we've always wanted. You know, obviously technology was not good back in the day, and
despite them doing great things in '77,
yes, with what they had, but like I said, everyone said it was like Rogue One. I think this was over the top, way better than what Rogue One did, and Rogue One is probably my favorite Star Wars movie. Just everything that happened when he starts walking, and you know Obi-Wan senses him and he's looking at him and he's trying to lure him out by killing innocent people. He literally cracks someone's neck by doing that.
He's murking people left and right.
And it was, like I said, man, I've never been scared of Darth Vader. And that was, you know, it was like an eerie feeling.
Yeah.
Seeing him walk through the streets and just doing that. And like he always does, he knew where he was.
Yeah.
He knew where Obi-Wan was, but just playing the whole cat and mouse thing. And then we learn what happens.
Yeah,
So.
well, and then, like, so we start with the city streets, Vader walking through and everything. Then we get Obi-Wan basically ditching the hideout and running into the desert. And then we get the, what was, well, you know what? That's your own fault for not watching Rebels. We get a throwback, basically, to an Obi-Wan fight in Rebels that we get. That's awesome. In the middle of the desert, kind of abandoned like this.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
The difference is that we get like Vader now chasing Obi-Wan and like Obi-Wan running and all of this in here, and this is great. This is wild. Like Obi-Wan doesn't want to fight.
In no way.
Vader is all about like. How about that shot of Vader just like lighting up his lightsaber and stuff? Oh my god, so good. We get Obi-Wan finally doing it, lighting up his lightsaber and stuff.
And
like,
that's because he had no choice.
Right? It's man, this was so good, and the James Earl Jones like. Talking to
then, like
to
you don't even see him, but you hear him in the distance telling him like you're not getting away, stuff like that. And like
how about the chest light approach? Do you remember that shot where we have like a sand dune like right here? We get Darth Vader walking in, and then we've got like the actual path of sand here, and then another sand dune or something there. And he's just walking in, and you just see you start seeing the lights out of nowhere.
That's what I'm saying. Like I've never been scared of him, and they finally gave us what we wanted and what we all knew Darth Vader was to be, you know, and that's being, you know, menacing, terrifying, you know, strong, because. He's so strong, and apparently we're also at Vader being at the peak of his powers too.
Yeah, well,
You know?
because this is like that Rogue One,
Yeah,
like kind of peak and stuff like this, that all that
where-
same timeline and everything.
No one is stronger than him. He's clearly can overpower anything, and that's why Obi-Wan was almost pathetic.
Yeah, and then so before we continue, Obi-Wan was almost pathetic, but we get a couple of inner shots. We get some city street stuff, the Inquisitors rounding up people, which is fine or whatever. We get the path. We get a cut to the path of Leia and Tala splitting. Of Leia being like, "You go back and get Obi-Wan. He needs you. He needs help. I can run a straight line." Basically, right? That's basically what she tells her.
Yeah.
I can run a straight line. Guess what? I can ask somebody if they're a pilot and make sure that they're supposed to be the person that I'm meeting. I can handle that. Obi-Wan cannot handle Vader right now, which is so interesting to me. Which is so interesting that Obi-Wan really can't handle Vader right now. And it also is interesting because it's does it beg the question, was Obi-Wan ever able to handle Anakin and Vader? Because even in Star Wars, granted, Obi-Wan knows at this point that this is what he needs to do to just let Vader strike him down to allow him to become a Force ghost at that point. It has to be. It has to be at that point.
Yeah.
So here, it's so interesting that we would not see that. But now, over the course of the next 3 episodes, there's now rumors of a second season of Obi-Wan, coming out and whatnot, being in development. So, whoa, what will that be? And we're jumping ahead of ourselves. We haven't even finished what they've made us so far. So, let's get back to it. Because we get the Inquisitors are rounding people up, still looking for any stragglers, anyone that might be able to help them. We get the path of Leia and whatnot. But the big thing is Obi-Wan and Vader basically still going, toe-to-toe. They're still running through the desert, and then they get to the awesome fire split. Obi-Wan on one side, Vader knocking down fire grenades basically, or
whatever
something
that was. I guess
fire starters or whatever.
Their version of gasoline or something. Or
yeah, right. So whatever it was, Vader knocks it down, lights it up, and we also get the exorcism of Obi-Wan of him being up above the ground and all that stuff.
And that was another thing that I was thinking watching that you got joy out of seeing Darth Vader torturing Obi-Wan.
Holy cow.
And obviously Obi-Wan does not die right there. Obviously you know that, but you're
you almost thought they were trying to rewrite Star Wars there for a second.
If he wanted to, he could have. And there's some questions because the first little fire he did, he just put out easily. Mm-hmm. And then she starts shooting some of the stormtroopers to save him from that. And you knew that he knows where she's at. Just another part of his game that he's doing, and
I actually think that made sense about Vader not doing anything after she's shot, because I think for me it showed Vader's shock that Obi-Wan was able to convince somebody else again to follow him. Because Anakin at this point feels that nobody should ever follow Obi-Wan due to what Obi-Wan did to him and allowed to happen to him, despite Anakin being corrupted by the dark side and Palpatine, and actually not necessarily really Obi-Wan's fault. In that sense, not so much. He was truly seduced and brought in and whatnot. And I think that's real. It's the only thing that doesn't make sense to it, because it's the whole point of it is that Anakin Vader wants to make Obi-Wan suffer. So you put him in fire, and that's how you make him suffer. You burn that dude alive like that. You hold him up against his will, and strain him to try and hold on and do anything above the ground and whatnot, and then you throw him down and you drag him in there to really torture him and stuff. But then that initial The fire goes out, she shoots, fire starts back up and stuff, and he doesn't do anything other than just stare, like, longingly.
Yeah.
Like, F you. Kind of. You know, like, the only thing I can think of is that he's truly shocked. Like, wow, he has somebody else, again, willing to help him go on this adventure. Which is even, like, what could also be thought of and seen when they reunite in A New Hope, in the original Star Wars movie. You know, like, when I last left you, like, I was but a learner, now I am the master and stuff, you know. I don't know, it was interesting. This whole episode is interesting. This whole series has been really interesting. Because then, after we get that, you know, Tala saves Obi-Wan, like, allows the droid to be able to pull, like, the fire starts back up, the droid pulls, you know, Obi-Wan back.
Yeah.
The last, like, horrible thing that really happens is in the path when Reva gets to Leia, kills the pilot, and, like, Leia starts running the other way and Reva goes after her. That's what we see for that. You know, again, we get the quick shots of the city and the Inquisitors at the end here. We get, you know, Tala saying, like, ready the transport, and then Leia running down the hallway from Reva. And this episode's basically over and done with now.
I don't even know what to say, because you knew it was going to happen, especially when you started seeing Reva go down, you know, in the path or whatever, the tunnel.
You knew that they had to at least meet up, or it was going to be a shot of, like, Leia walking out to a pilot, and then the pilot being like, "You're not Tala," or something, and then, like, a cut black screen or whatever. You know,
but
like...
once I seen her, Reva, start going down the tunnel, I was like, oh, well, she's going to get her, you know. Yeah. And that's ultimately what happens, so... And right now, I have no opinion, no thoughts. We'll see what happens. Because now she has to be saved again.
Yeah, right? So, we finished up episode 3. What'd you think? What have you thought? I mean, we're at the halfway point now. So, what have you thought halfway through Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I think it's great. I loved all 3 episodes, and I didn't know where we were going to go with this show, and I think it's great, and Darth Vader has lived up to my expectations, and awesome. I think they are definitely going to fight again, him and Kenobi.
Yeah.
So,
it's interesting that you say that, because I think that now after this fight, Obi-Wan has to best Vader before the series is over for Vader's first line of dialogue to make sense still, or hold the same weight that it's always held in A New Hope, you know, the original Star Wars.
Yeah.
In the fact that, like, Obi-Wan has to come back and best Darth Vader, and it has to be one of those things, whether it be, like, you know, Obi-Wan's like, "Hey, Qui-Gon, what up, dude?"
And I think that's
like helps or something, or not, or whatever.
I believe that's what's gonna happen. That he will be able to talk to Qui-Gon and inspiration, I guess. And
well, because Qui-Gon, to be fair, like, it would make sense that in order for Obi-Wan to best Anakin here, the person who always was and the original backer of Anakin, Qui-Gon, having that knowledge.
Yes.
Or having that insight to be able to dispel upon his old, you know, Padawan and stuff. And so I agree. Now, with me, I love Obi-Wan. I love this series. I have been in on all of their series that they've done. I loved Clone Wars Season 7 that they did. Mandalorian has been the gift that keeps on giving, really, if we're being honest, of Star Wars right now. Book of Boba Fett, I freaking loved. I know a lot of people, I know it, like, split a lot of people, but I'm pretty sure everything in Star Wars splits a lot of people now. Yeah. I don't think anything is, like, clear cookie cutter, like, we all love it anymore. Like, I just don't think it's there anymore.
I loved it, though.
I love awesome. I love Book of Boba Fett. It's so good.
Yeah.
But I'm Jimmy with the Triple C Collective. This is DJ. Say bye, DJ.
See you later.
And we're going to stop talking right now. Thank you for joining us for part 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Tune in next week for us, with us for part 4. We are halfway done. I am Jimmy with the Triple C Collective. Want to thank you all for joining us on this Sci-Fi Sunday. And may the Force be with you.